Working with dogs and people every day, I get some really interesting questions that, for me, given what I do, are second nature, but for the typical dog owner, might not necessarily be common knowledge. So I wanted to compile a list for everyone of the top 10 things that I think are important for every dog owner to know. So whether you're a seasoned dog owner and you've had dogs your entire life, or if you're thinking about just getting your first dog now, follow along with me and let me list out for you my top 10 things that I think every dog owner should know. And if you like this kind of video, please let me know by hitting that like button and go ahead and hit the subscribe and the bell notification to receive more content just like it. Let's get right into the top 10 things I think every dog owner should know. Dogs need one-on-one time. In fact, they don't just need it, they thrive on it. And that makes complete sense because over the past couple of centuries, we've bred them that way. We very specifically bred them to be our dependents, to be our companions. So now they have a very natural drive to want to spend time with us and be where we are. If we don't provide this for them, it's one of their basic necessities, just like food, water, shelter, and exercise. You can start to see some frustrated, stressful behaviors erupt. For example, dogs that are chained up in backyards that don't get a lot of attention. They become hyperactive, they can become aggressive, territorial, and just really suffer mentally overall. So it is important that you provide that one-on-one time with your pet. And what does that look like and what does it potentially not look like? Well, it's not going to the dog bar or going to the dog park, because again, you're looking for that time, that individualized time with your dog specifically. So what it does look like is playing fetch or playing frisbee or throwing a pack on and going for a hike, or even just snuggling on the couch and rubbing their ears, or a good old-fashioned belly rub as well. So remember, one of the essentials of being a dog owner is making sure that we provide the necessities, and one of those necessities is one-on-one individualized time. Dogs do dog things, not human things. And that might sound really simple, but they do things like roll on dead bugs and eat dog poop, which to us is really disgusting, but oftentimes can be a normal behavior for a dog to exhibit. The problem that erupts is when we try to make our dogs do human things. For example, one of the more common problems I see is with greetings. We humans greet by saying hello face to face, or shaking each other's hand, or coming in close contact face to face. Dogs, on the other hand, do not communicate that way. They actually greet by sniffing each other's hind end first. And when we interrupt dog behavior, like the way that they greet, for example, we can cause problems where problems otherwise would not arise. Dogs are not meant to greet nose to nose with full-on face-to-face contact. So instead of humanizing them, let them be dogs. Let them roll in that dead bug and maybe not let them eat the poop so much, but especially when it comes to things like greeting other animals, make sure it's an appropriate dog greeting and let them be dogs. Dogs have a few basic hygiene needs. For example, like trimming their nails and brushing their teeth, and even giving them a bath every once in a while. I bathe my dogs about once a month. Reason being is you don't want to overbathe them. Overbathing them leads to drying out their coat and breaking down that protective oil barrier that they have over their skin, keeping things out like pathogens. So I aim for about once a month when bathing my dogs. If you need some tips on how to keep bathing fun and positive for your dog, I've got a video on that, and I'm going to put a link to that video in the description below so that you can learn a couple of tricks that I use to make it fun for the dogs as well during bath time. Toothbrushing is also essential when it comes to doggy hygiene. This one's really important because oral health is related to overall health with your dog. A lot of people aim to brush their dog's teeth about 2 to 3 times a week, but it's actually recommended by veterinary professionals that you brush your dog's teeth once a day. You can supplement toothbrushing with things like CET chews, which are an enzymatic chew to help clean the teeth, and oral mouthwashes. But the best way to promote overall oral health is with toothbrushing. I also have a video on how to brush your dog's teeth. I've got some different examples of toothbrushes and toothpastes, and again, how to keep it a fun and positive activity for your dog as well. I'll also put the link to that video in the description below for you. Last but not least in our hygiene segment is nail trimming. This is important because dogs' nails grow at a fairly rapid rate, and if they grow too much without being cut, they can actually grow into the skin of the pad and cause a lot of pain and discomfort. I trim my dog's toenails about every 2 weeks, so you can put it right on schedule with the bath or every other. But it's important that they get ground down as well so they're not sharp and they don't catch on things and rip their nails. So I also use a Dremel just to round out the edges and make it a little bit safer and a little bit easier for them. Not all dog foods are created equal, and it's really important that your dog get a high quality diet to live a high quality life, just like people. Unfortunately, a lot of cheaper dog food brands use cheaper ingredients, which leads to poor nutrition. Poor nutrition can lead to health problems like skin and coat issues and organ failure and even problems like behavioral issues. So it's really important that your dog is on a high quality, highly digestible diet for the best life possible, both physically and mentally. The other thing you want to keep in mind is caloric intake. So all of those treats that they might get throughout the day for just doing good things and practicing good behaviors, or just because you want to spoil them a little bit, they can add up after a while. So keep in mind how much you're giving them in regard to calorie and fat and protein content in addition to the meals that you already feed them throughout the day. Think about it like this. If you've got a pack of Oreos in the pantry and you snack on one every once in a while, not such a big deal. But if you continuously snack on those Oreos throughout the day, those things are going to add up after a while based on the extra calories and the extra sugar and all the extra fat. So keep that in mind, how much you're giving your dog throughout the day with treats in addition to their regular meals. Human food. Not all human foods are safe for dogs, so it's really important to know that some human foods are actually very toxic to dogs and can land them in the hospital, or even worse, can kill them. So it's important to know what is safe and what is not safe, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable when sharing human food with your dogs. Now, nutrition is a pretty complex topic, and I'm not going to get into all the details in this video segment. However, I do have a nutrition video out that kind of guides you through some of the more important things that you need to know in selecting high-quality dog foods for your dog, for longevity of life and overall health and wellness. So check that out if you want more information. I'll put the link to the video in the description below. Dogs are sentient beings, and what that means is though they're not human, they're able to experience some of the same things that humans do. For example, they can experience pain and suffering the way that we do. They can also experience emotions like happiness. So it's really important the way that you interact with your dog, the way that you communicate with your dog. And I encourage you to reflect on the fact of whether you're interacting with them in a compassionate way, to where you're kind and you're patient and you want to build that relationship with them. Or on the flip side of that, like some of the clients that I work with, because they think their dog doesn't listen to them, are you barking orders? Are you yelling a lot? That creates very negative emotions in dogs, just as it does in people. So again, I encourage you to reflect on the communication that you have with your dog. Compassion goes a long way in raising a mentally well canine companion. It also contributes to the overall longevity of their life. So remember, they're sentient beings just like we are. There is a financial responsibility involved in owning a dog, and that responsibility doesn't end when you sign the adoption papers and pay that adoption fee, or when you pay the purchase price of that cute new little puppy. That financial responsibility lasts the lifetime of the dog, and it's important for their overall health and well-being. Things that come up like annual veterinary care, biannual veterinary care, high quality nutrition, professional dog training, behavior services, and even supplies like bowls and collars and leashes and toys and treats, and the list goes on and on. So you have to plan for these things in advance and budget accordingly for them as well. The other side to budgeting is the emergency funds. Things unfortunately just happen that are out of our control, even when we're the best responsible dog owner that we can be with their health and upkeep. Things like congenital heart defects, or if your dog blows a cruciate ligament and needs a $4,000 surgery. You want to be prepared for that ahead of time. So it's a good idea in your budget to set aside an emergency fund, not just for your humans, but for your dog as well. Now, there's a couple of different things that can help with the financial responsibility of pet ownership. Getting involved with something like a wellness plan at your veterinary hospital, where instead of one lump sum when you come in for an annual visit, or 2 lump sums biannually with a senior animal, you can pay month to month for different services and have things like vaccinations and sick visits included in that wellness plan. The other thing you can do is look into health insurance for your pet. There are a number of different companies and a wide variety of different health insurance payment plans that can really assist you in the event of an emergency, but also for some of those wellness needs as well. So keep in mind, there's always a financial responsibility that's yours for the longevity of that animal. So prepare for it and budget ahead of time. Dogs don't have sweat glands all throughout their body like humans do. So whereas humans, to alleviate excess heat, will sweat it out all over, dogs don't have that ability. In fact, they only have similar sweat glands to ours in their paw pads. So what do they do to alleviate excess heat? Well, the majority of the time it's through panting. Now this is really important to know because some dogs are more susceptible to things like heat stroke, which could be life-threatening than other dogs. So keeping your dogs cool is really important. A couple of different breeds that are a little more susceptible to something like heat stroke are brachiocephalic dogs. So dogs that have smushy faces like pugs, or English bulldogs, or even Frenchies. They're much more likely to overheat faster just based on the conformation of their face and their body in general. A couple of practical tips for you for keeping dogs cool, and one not to do thing. Some people will shave their dogs down that have really thick, heavy coats like Huskies or Samoyeds. These dogs are actually built with a dual layer coat. So there's an underlayer and an overlayer. So cutting that takes out that bottom insulating layer when you shave it off. That insulating layer actually helps them retain some coolness to them. So even though some people think it makes their dogs cooler to shave all that hair off in the summertime, it's actually easier to mitigate their temperature just by keeping them hydrated and not giving them excessive exercise outdoors in the heat. You want to keep that insulative layer in the bottom. A couple things you can do is be sure to bring water with you when you're out on walks or on hikes. Just simple hydration can help keep your pet cool enough for the most part. The other thing too is distance. Make sure you work your dogs up to the distances that you're taking them out so they don't overexert themselves. Couple things to keep an eye out for excessive heat and them not getting rid of that enough through their panting and their paw pads is if your dog's tongue seems really, really long and they're excessively panting, that's one sign that they might be overheating a bit. Or if they seem extremely lethargic, that might be a sign that they've taken it a little too far and they're a little too hot. So cool them down, give them a little bit of fresh water. You don't need to use ice cubes or a cold bath or anything like that. But just a couple of things to help keep your dog from overheating since they don't have sweat glands like we do. Dogs are for life, so it's important to understand the commitment that you're actually making when you bring a new dog into the household. Think about lifespan to begin with. Some of your giant breeds might live only 8 to 9 years, whereas some of your toy terriers, your Pomeranians or Yorkies, they might live 18, 19 years. So when you bring your new dog home, think about how long you're actually going to have that pet with you. To tie into that, think about your lifestyle. What your lifestyle is now. Is it a good match for the dog you're looking to bring home or the puppy you're looking to bring home? But also, is it going to be a good match 5, 10 years from now? So if you're single and you don't have a family yet, but you want to have kids, think about the plan that involves your dog 5 to 10 years from now as well, because they'll still be here. Same with if you're close to retirement or you're an empty nester, your kids are off to college. Are you thinking about traveling 5 years from now? Remember that your dog is still a part of your family and still a part of your commitment, so should also be a part of your plan. Now this might come as a shock to some people, especially my clients and maybe some of you watching, but there are people out there that once their dogs are old, will abandon their senior pets at shelters. And what these people don't understand is that turning in the old dog that's kind of on their last years for a new shiny puppy that's more exciting because the old dog is no longer convenient for them is actually really emotionally traumatic on a senior dog, and their lives are just never the same. What short lives they often have in the shelter system. So if I could urge you in any direction, it would be that remember that when you make the commitment of bringing a dog, a dependent, into your household, that you're making a commitment to that dog for the life of them. Dog professionals make life with dogs so much easier. Good behavior professionals and good training professionals spend a lot of time and money learning everything they can about dog communication, about building relationships with them, and mitigating difficult behavior problems. They're a great resource for you. They can help you develop a baseline with your pet, meaning understand what behaviors are normal for your dog, because all dogs are individual, and therefore if you have a problem later on down the road, they can determine what is normal again for your dog and what is not, what needs to be addressed, or what might be a typical phase for your dog. Think of it like you would outsourcing any type of professional service. Maybe you have a favorite electrician that you go to in the event that you need electrical work, or a plumber every time something happens in your house or you need new piping, or even your favorite hairdresser. You trust these people to cut your hair and color it without damaging. The same goes with behavior and training professionals. They're there to help you speak dog, essentially, and help you mitigate problems as they arise throughout the lifetime of your pet. So do yourself a favor and take advantage of the resources available to you through a behavior or training professional. At some point, inevitably, they're gonna break your heart. This here is Boda Bear. He's my own personal American Pit Bull Terrier that I've had for 15 years of his life, and he's getting close to breaking mine. I got Boda Bear when he was only about 5 weeks of age. He was thrown out of a moving vehicle and discarded. He could fit pretty much in the palm of one of my hands. He had a lot of medical problems, and Boda Bear and I have been through a lot together. So I'm very, very attached to him. And that's something that's really important to know if you're a pet owner, is that in the short amount of times that they're with us, we become very, very attached to them, and it's very hard to let go. They're with us every single day, just like our kids, just like our spouses, and they're one of the only other creatures that we get such unconditional love from. So we become very, very bonded, and when that bond separates, it can be very traumatizing for us. So it's important to prepare yourself well for that ahead of time. The good news is it's so completely worth it. All of the wonderful memories that you share with them and the moments that you have make it that much easier and more enticing for you to do it all over again with the next dog that comes into your life, to kind of fill some of that void from the prior dog that was there. Right, Boda Bear? Thank you so much for watching my top 10 things that I think every dog owner should know. Please pass it on to other dog-loving friends. Remember to hit the like button and hit the subscribe and bell notification to see more just like it.